Binance and ANKR were just hacked for nearly $6 quadrillion. Well, kinda. It's no secret that there's no crypto project out there that has $6 quadrillion worth of anything, but what we have here is yet another exploit happening to synthetic cryptocurrencies. And in today's video, I want to talk about the impact that this will have on not only the entire crypto market, but in the specific cases of BNB and ANKR as well. So if this interests you at all, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video. We have a bunch of other news articles to go into, as well as what's happening on the Bitcoin and BNB charts in response to all this crazy news. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Brendan, and I make videos just like this one every single week, multiple times a week. So if you like the content that we have here, consider sticking around. But let's go ahead and dive on into this news. I'm sure people are freaking out at the sound or the sign of arguably $6 quadrillion happening in any market. But what we had here was the continuing struggle of synthetic assets in cryptocurrencies. We saw it happening with wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped Ethereum. It doesn't matter. All of these synthetic assets have seen a lot of struggle, especially over the course of the last year or so. Now, especially in recent months since the collapse of Alameda and FTX, there has been a continuing, I would say, discomfort with synthetic assets. And just the other day, wrapped Bitcoin was depairing from traditional Bitcoin. And that scared a lot of people. But what we have over here is actually the BNB on ANKR protocol, known as aBNB, seeing a pretty nasty exploit where people were able to mint nearly 6 quadrillion tokens. Now, in this quote, it says, a hacker managed to exploit a vulnerability in the code of aBNB that allowed them to mint 6 quadrillion tokens. Now, something to, I guess, recognize here is that this was not them minting 6 quadrillion worth of BNB token. This was them minting nearly 6 quadrillion worth of a BNB token. And what that means is just ANKR BNB. We saw something similar happen to Gala earlier this year, or specifically with P-Gala. And with P-Gala happening, they kind of just shut off everything and said, hey, we're going to be taking this thing offline until everything's fixed. But in this case, it looks like the scenario isn't nearly as bad as it's being broadcasted to be. In fact, in a statement just later, ANKR came out and said that they have assessed the damage to be at max around $5 million worth of BNB. So at the end of the day, 5 million is a lot, but it's not the worst. I mean, when we've seen hacks that are hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, when we look at 5 million, yeah, it's a significant amount of money for someone like me or you. But for these projects that are very large, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to be a big deal at the end of the day. So there's two things to recognize here. Number one, the damages are not as big as everyone thinks that they're going to be. This probably will create a sense of discomfort even further with synthetic assets in crypto, but probably specifically in the case of BNB. And that leads me into point number two, being that BNB really wasn't affected at all here. And CZ has come out and said, hey, nothing's wrong with BNB. If anything, it's these people who are making synthetic assets of BNB that were the people that are going to be affected by this. And the people that are trading these synthetic assets are more likely to be affected than the traditional BNB holders. Now, BNB is only down about 1% on the day here. And if we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's down about 0.5%. So this is a pretty average day for crypto so far. Again, altcoins are almost always going to be more volatile than Bitcoin. And so with Bitcoin being down 0.5% and then the altcoin being down about 1%, and there's nothing too out of the ordinary here. There's no extreme reaction from what's happening on Bitcoin. So those are the two main topics here. If you see this in the news and you see something about a $6 quadrillion hack, don't freak out. Just because they minted $6 quadrillion worth of a token doesn't mean that there's $6 quadrillion worth to actually sell to, because at the end of the day, they need someone to sell these tokens to in order to cash out on any of this money. And clearly there's not $6 quadrillion in aBNB that's ready to be sold, right? So take it with a grain of salt. It's not nearly as big of a deal as it seems to be. However, it definitely kind of furthers the idea of this distrust for synthetic assets. So let me know, are you still using synthetic assets? Is it even worth the risk right now? Because in my opinion, I don't really think that it is. Like, why trade these synthetic versions of assets when they're seeing so much struggle in a time like this, why take on the additional risk? Like, yeah, you get to trade it on a side chain. Maybe you have a little bit of cheaper gas fees, but is it worth the security risk that you're going to be taking on? I don't know. Only you can answer that for yourself. Now, in further news, we saw a really funny article come out from the ECB, or the European Central Bank. And what they said was, yet again, if you don't know, they have been routinely bearish on crypto for as long as I can remember. For as long as I've been around, I hear them say very, very few things that are positive about crypto. And now they're saying that crypto is on the road to irrelevance. And I thought, what better way to depict this than to look at a Bitcoin obituary chart of all time, right? Because over the years, there have been so many quotes, so many articles saying Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin is going to become irrelevant. The list goes on. And there's actually a beautiful website that lets us see every single time a statement like this has been made. And what do you know, at the top of this list, we have that exact article. Bitcoin is on the road to, I can't even stop myself from laughing. Bitcoin is on the road to irrelevance once again. And this is a hilarious website if you want to check it out for yourself. It's by 99 Bitcoins, and they have this thing called a Bitcoin obituary, where you can see every single time that a statement like this has been made. And guess what? It goes all the way back to the very inception of Bitcoin back in 2010. And ever since 2010, people have been making these wild claims that Bitcoin is going to be irrelevant, it's going to die, it's never going to be used again. And here we are 12 years later after Bitcoin just hit a monumental all-time high of $70,000. And what do you know? If we actually scroll down, we actually see a rise in the amount of quotes of Bitcoin will be irrelevant while Bitcoin's falling. Most notably, in like 2017 and 18, when we saw a really big bear market, we saw a rise in Bitcoin's going to die. And then back in 2015, during the great bear market of 2015, we saw a new all-time high of Bitcoin will become irrelevant. And then as Bitcoin grew in 2016, nearly half as many, or not nearly half, but significantly less articles were published saying that Bitcoin was going to die. So it's one of the funniest things just seeing news outlets or like these big centralized figureheads making these kind of claims about crypto, right? They've done it in the past, they'll continue to do it. Once Bitcoin is over 100,000, they're still going to be saying the same thing. So if you want to look at a chart like this, it's really funny. You can kind of see a heat map of like what price they said this at and what the news article is and who said it and everything of that nature. But I concede, let's go ahead and move on. Now in our final article over here, in a defensive interview, Sam Bankman-Fried claims that he is broke and he's actually committed no fraud. Now this one might be even funnier to me than the Bitcoin obituary article and the ECB saying that Bitcoin is going to become irrelevant, right? Clearly, at least from what we have been publicly released, this appears to be one of the biggest cases, if not the biggest case of fraud in history. And he's convinced that he didn't do anything wrong. So let me know, do you think that he's lying through his teeth, or do you think that he actually believes that he has not done anything wrong? Because in this article, they talk about how, and even Sam admits, saying that we saw a thriving business, I don't know what happened, and we didn't spend enough time on risk management. Now, in prior interviews and prior podcasts, he would say one of my best attributes is I'm really good at risk management. And then here, in a quote, he says, we've completely failed on risk, and it feels pretty embarrassing. So, like, what is it, Sam? Did you fail on risk management? Is it one of your strongest features? Like what is it at the end of the day? And so there's this interesting article where this guy's still walking around in this insane penthouse mansion, and he's speaking on the New York Times at their summit, where the tickets cost $2,500 a ticket, and you have all these big names, both political and of the business and the financial world, and he's still roaming around saying, I didn't do anything wrong. But yet what we have is something that is looking to be bigger than Enron, bigger than Lehman Brothers, one of the most impactful financial situations, and again, what appears to be fraud in history. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this in the comment section down below. I'm curious to hear what everyone else thinks, because clearly I'm a little bit opinionated on this matter. But Let's continue to move on, take a quick look at what's happening over here on Bitcoin, because with the Bitcoin chart, we've seen over the past couple days, mainly towards the first half of this week, we saw a really nice rise, and I want to highlight this. We saw a really nice rise in Bitcoin's price. Bitcoin gained, I think it was just over 7%, and then in the past day or two, Bitcoin has been gradually falling back down towards this blue line, which is the 20-day moving average. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but Bitcoin really is in this consolidation period where it's bouncing just between resistance and support and just back and forth inside of this area. And that's exactly what it's done in some of the previous consolidation ranges as well. And as we zoom out, we can see that this isn't the first time that Bitcoin has done that. It's bounced between its previous support level, which is a newfound resistance level, and then the new support level, and that's all that it does. And we can just look at a couple of examples, and I can even draw another one up over in here. And so what we see is it just does the same exact methodical movement until it ultimately breaks down to a new level, does the same kind of consolidation, and it just repeats on the cycle. And now what we're seeing is just this entire cycle, except on a much smaller scale. And maybe this will expand, like maybe the size of this channel will expand over time. Obviously, we've only been in this channel for roughly a month or so, so it's probably too early to say if this is going to be the full size of this consolidation range or not. But for the time being, it looks like the overall range of around 15,500 all the way up to around 18,000 is going to be the new consolidation range for Bitcoin. So if there's any significant levels to look out for, it's going to be around 15,500 up to about 18,000 on the top side. But that's going to wrap us up for this video. I hope all of you did enjoy. And if you enjoyed the content like this, definitely consider subscribing, smacking the like button, and sticking around for more content. But until next week's video, I will see all of you very, very soon.